Hello gamers, this is Sai, and welcome back to Which Way Games. Now, what was Captain Falcon's ultimate finisher? And with that being said, let's get on with the video. Racing games have been a staple of gaming throughout the years, very much like the fighting genre, each having a variety of different game developers dipping their toes into the world of speed. Now, gamers all have their favourite games that they return to, however there's one game that stands out among the rest for taking the concept of speed and turning it up to ludicrous proportions.
My brains are going into my feet!
This would be FZero X for the Nintendo 64, a simplistic yet challenging racing game, but before I carry on, let's go back to where it all started.
Development for FZero X began while Nintendo was still working on the legendary Mario Kart 64. Shigeru Miyamoto was on a mission to revisit old Super Nintendo games and bring them into the world of 3D, but one game that it always wanted to return to was the original F-Zero. Now, F-Zero was one of the launch titles for the Super Nintendo, and was one of the earliest games to use Mode 7. A graphics program that allowed a background layer to be rotated and create a sense of perspective. This was more noticeable in games such as Pilot Wings, Mega Man 7 and the amazing Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. In F-Zero, gamers would participate in high-octane speed racing circuits set in a futuristic world, where the Mega Rich invented the F-Zero Grand Prix as a way to entertain themselves.
This is also where the character of Captain Falcon was first introduced to gamers.
Captain Falcon is an accomplished F-Zero pilot, as well as a very successful bounty hunter that could give Samus Aran a run for her money. Eventually, Captain Falcon would become the face of the F-Zero series, but more on that later. F-Zero sold extremely well with critics and gamers, stating it was one of the best racing games of all time from the 16-bit era of gaming. With its place in history, Miyamoto wanted to take the speed from F-Zero and crank it up a notch. Using an in-house development team that previously worked on Wave Race 64, Word began creating FZero X. Futuristic 3D tracks were introduced, even having some classics from the original F-Zero making a return, as well as remixed versions of some of the amazing music tracks.
One of my favourites has to be Mute City.
Eventually, after many months of work, FZero X made its debut at Nintendo Space World, where gamers were able to play the fastest racer on the Nintendo 64.
Wow!
Now, with the Nintendo 64 being pushed to its limits with games such as Ocarina of Time and Hybrid Heaven, FZero X took a step back and focused on recreating the experience from the original that would have gamers coming back for more. And in late 1998, FZero X was released for gamers to enjoy while racing at breakneck speeds.
And like always, let's go back to the past to see how FZero X was advertised.
秒間60フレーム時速1500キロ音より速い奴らがやってきた世界最速レースゲーム任天堂64 FZero X.
The story of F-Zero X is set 7 years after the events of F-Zero, where a horrific and violent accident caused the suspension of the F-Zero Grand Prix, where only a racer called Super Arrow somehow was the only survivor. Following this, the racing sport went underground, where many racers would enter the world of high-speed racing. Some would have success while others ended up in the pits, or even worse, until a confident racer, only known as Captain Falcon, turned up. He would participate in various racing circuits, gaining victory over other racers, with some stating he must be some sort of racing god, somehow always able to predict what other drivers would do before they knew themselves. Eventually, thanks to Super Arrow, the F-Zero Racing Academy was established, and the ban was lifted, allowing for the F-Zero Grand Prix to be brought back, but with rules and regulations.
Which of course pleased fans, but with most rules, some are made to be broken.
With the F-Zero Grand Prix back in the limelight, racers from all over the galaxy turned up to take part. But there's one racer that has other agendas in mind. This would be Black Shadow, and he's out for revenge against Captain Falcon, who arrested the witch doctor that gave Black Shadow his dark and secretive powers. One eventful day, Black Shadow causes Captain Falcon to crash, and while he's in hospital, Black Shadow steals the DNA of the captain. And from this, Black Shadow creates the evil clone known as Blood Falcon. Now fully recovered, Captain Falcon must take down Black Shadow, but who is Blood Falcon, and why does he seem so familiar?
Gameplay has gamers participating in high-speed racing circuits with 30 races to choose from, including Captain Falcon himself.
As gamers start off on their selected tracks, they'll be met with some fantastic music, especially the infamous Smooth City. The countdown begins, and then within moments, gamers are driving at record-breaking speeds on racing circuits high above the city. These racing circuits include loops, corkscrews, tunnels and pipes that gamers will have to traverse to reach the sought-after first place position. Gamers' vehicles each have a health bar that once depleted will be game over, but throughout the various tracks there's fields of energy that can regenerate health. Another thing gamers will be able to use to get the advantage while racing would be the boost power. This will allow vehicles a temporary boost in speed, flying past other drivers, but this is connected with the health bar I just mentioned. With a stiff learning curve, gamers will be able to race in a variety of cups with 5 different modes of gameplay. These being the usual Grand Prix style of play, going all the way to the dangerous but exciting Death Race, where gamers must annihilate other drivers in the fastest time possible. Within each cup there are 6 tracks, each with their own difficulty setting, and once completed, the mysterious X Cup is revealed. The X Cup has 6 tracks like the others, however each track is randomly generated that changes with each playthrough.
Which is great for gaming nights, but who's the best driver to use?
Coming back to the story, with Captain Falcon coming out on top in all Grand Prix circuits, the final race has finally arrived. While checking the Blue Falcon for the final race, the captain notices Black Shadow and the somewhat familiar Blood Falcon talking as if plotting something against him. Trying not to show much interest, Captain Falcon overhears them both agreeing on making a move when it comes to the tunnel turnpike. Finding himself sitting in the cockpit of the Blue Falcon, the captain is ready to win one final time, and with a few double checks of his vehicle, Captain Falcon slowly smiles at the newly installed switch that should come in handy later.
Then with a flash all the drivers speed off, with Captain Falcon out in front.
Over many loops and dangerous turns, a handful of drivers end up crashing, leaving just Captain Falcon, Black Shadow and Blood Falcon left. The drivers stay close to one another, and up ahead, Captain Falcon notices that the track is entering the tunnel turnpike. Remembering the conversation he overheard earlier, the captain notices Black Shadow and Blood Falcon appear on one side of the Blue Falcon. The pair begin to close on the Captain Falcon, edging him closer to the wall, but the captain knows exactly what the plan is. Using his quick thinking, Captain Falcon hits boost power on the Blue Falcon, causing it to shoot forward into the tunnel, leaving Black Shadow and Blood Falcon behind. Black Shadow is angered by this, but fails to notice how close his vehicle is to the wall and crashes out of control into a ball of fire.
With Black Shadow taking out, all that is left is Captain Falcon's final opponent, the deadly Blood Falcon.
The pair drive at speeds that most other drivers can only dream of, but they seem evenly matched, each outdoing one another. Eventually, Blood Falcon decides to drive dirty and tries to force Captain Falcon off the track once again. However, Captain Falcon anticipated this, and as Blood Falcon begins to ram his vehicle into the Blue Falcon, Captain flips the switch on his driving console, causing his vehicle to spin rapidly. With this, Blood Falcon is sent flying off the track and into the city below. Captain Falcon speeds over the finish line, winning the final circuit and becoming the FZero Grand Prix champion. But can this be the end of Black Shadow and Blood Falcon? Only time will tell.
When released, FZero X was highly praised for its abundance of tracks, fast gameplay and fantastic music.
Despite the lack of graphical prowess, FZero X is still regarded as one of the top racing games for the Nintendo 64. But this wasn't the only futuristic racing game for the legendary console from Nintendo. Others were Wipeout 64 and Extreme G, which I'll come back to in the future. Now, FZero X did have an expansion kit released for the Nintendo 64 disc drive, where gamers had access to 12 more tracks, as well as the option of creating new vehicles and new tracks to try them out on. This track editor allowed gamers' imaginations to run wild and create unique tracks that even veteran FZero gamers would struggle with.
Following on from the success of FZero X, a sequel was made that was not only released in the arcade, but also for gamers at home.
F-Zero GX emulated the same qualities that made FZero X so popular, but with the power of the GameCube, Nintendo could finally bring this racing series up to the justice it deserves. Not only was F-Zero GX released on the GameCube, but it also made an appearance in the arcade, and its arcade connectivity gave access to even more content from the series. Over time, a few more games in the F-Zero franchise would come and go, But nowadays Captain Falcon is seen more within the gaming world of Smash Brothers and has become a fan favourite with gamers. But the world of video games isn't the only place where Captain Falcon can be found. The world of anime brings him to life with the over-the-top storylines and fast-paced action the F-Zero series is known for. Overall, FZero X is a great game to play with its simplistic look and fantastic gameplay. It would be nice to see Nintendo bring this racing series back, especially with online play, but who could be the F-Zero Grand Prix champion of the world?
Anyway, come back next time where I'll be celebrating Valentine's Day and the love that gamers have for a certain blue hedgehog, and perhaps some friends will join in on the fun. Thank you so much for watching and see you next game.